Today we are going to graph parabolas by hand. This is not everybody's favorite lesson, but it is not as difficult as sometimes students make it out to be. So I think if you just really pay attention and you know one new little formula, the rest the calculator can help you with, and things that you've already learned will help you with it. Okay, so we have a new equation for us, and it's the equation for the axis of symmetry. Remember, the axis of symmetry is the vertical line that splits the parabola in half. So this is the equation we're going to use today in order to find the axis of symmetry. So we're going to be given equations today, and we'll be making the pictures. So from the equation, we're going to follow this formula, and that will give us the axis of symmetry. It's also going to give us the x-coordinate to the vertex, because it uses the same formula. If I take you back to our notes from the day before, I want to show you what I'm talking about. All right, so do you see how the axis of symmetry is always the same as the x-coordinate to the vertex? Let's keep looking. Here it is. The axis of symmetry is the same as the x-coordinate to the vertex. The axis of symmetry is the same as the x-coordinate to the vertex. And the axis of symmetry is the same as the x-coordinate of the vertex. So what that means is, once we know the axis of symmetry, we'll also know the x-coordinate of the vertex. It's like killing two birds with one stone. Yay! So once we find this, we'll also know that, and then we'll go from there. Okay, so one thing you do need to know is where A, B, and C are located, because this formula requires you to know B and A. All right, so A is the number in front of the x squared. B is the number in front of the x. And if I needed to know C, C is the constant. It's the number that doesn't have a variable attached to it. Okay, so when we go to graph today, we're going to do a few different things. First, we're going to find and graph the axis of symmetry using that formula up above. Then we're going to find the vertex, and I'll show you how to do that, and we will plot it. Then we're going to find the y-intercept, and then we're going to flip it around to find its reflection or corresponding point. Remember how the other day we were looking to see if a point flipped over the axis of symmetry, where would it land? Okay, and then after that, we're going to find one other value for x, and then we're going to graph it, and then we're going to flip it. Okay, so here we go. So first, I want to make sure you guys all know what A, B, and C are. So remember, A is in front of the x squared, so you don't see anything there, so that means that A is 1. B is the number in front of the x, so that means that B is -2. And C is the constant, it's the number without the variable, so C is -3. Okay, so now let's do exactly what this formula tells us to do. So when I read this, I read it as x equals the opposite of B divided by 2 times A. So I don't say -B, I say the opposite of B, because I think it will make more sense to you. So if I asked you what's the opposite of B, I'm asking you what's the opposite of a -2? And the opposite of a -2 is a +2. If this had been a +2, then the opposite of that would have been a -2. So always take the opposite of B, and the opposite of a -2 is a +2. Put your division bar, and then we're going to take 2 times our A. So we're taking 2 times our A, which is a 1. Okay, so let's go ahead and calculate 2 times 1. So 2 times 1 is 2. Recopy the 2 that's in the numerator. And what's 2 divided by 2? 1. Okay, every time you find this axis of symmetry, I want you to recopy the x equals. So x equals, and then the number you got. Because remember, the axis of symmetry is a vux, like up here. The axis of symmetry is a vux which means it's going to use the letter x equals in its equation. So every time you find the axis of symmetry, I want to make sure you have x equals because it's a vertical line. Okay, so I'm going to go draw this vertical line. I'm going to go to where x is 1, and I'm going to draw myself a dashed vertical line. This is the line that's going to split our parabola in half. Okay, next thing. A little bit ago, we saw that once you know the axis of symmetry, you also know the x-coordinate to the vertex. So, if this is the axis of symmetry, it's also the x-coordinate to the vertex. So I just take this axis of symmetry number and I put it in the x spot of the vertex. And that's because the vertex has to be on the axis of symmetry. So that's why they have to have the same x value. Okay, now this is where you have to use common sense. And it's sad to say, but sometimes students don't have very good common sense. So no offense, but that's what happens. So this is your x-coordinate, and you're searching for your y. So what that means is you're going to take this x number and put it in the x's. And when you work it out, look who you're going to have. You're going to have the y, which is what we want. So if this is an x value, you put the 1 in that x, and you put the 1 in that x. So I'm going to put 1 right there, and I'm going to put 1 right there. And I am going to use my calculator to help me. All right, so the way this works, as soon as you see the x, you slap parentheses down. And I feel like I need to brighten my